I'm Burniston, the designer of Pop-It-Ups dies for Elizabeth Craft Designs, and today I'll be teaching a tutorial on this. A Sock Monkey Oval Landscape Accordion card. The January 2016 Designer Challenge has a theme of new, and we are all focusing on some of the brand new products that were just released at the CHA show. My project today is going to feature 5 new products, and then the Props 2 set, which is one of my existing favorites. So my first goal was to transform Jinks the Monkey into a sock monkey. So let me walk you through how I did that. I started with some light gray cardstock that I had applied the Elizabeth Craft Designs double-sided adhesive to the back. And then I'm just placing that on just an old piece of foam, just something soft and squishy. And the reason for that is I decided to make the sock texture using, you guessed it, a sock. I just got a big, thick cable knit sock out of my husband's drawer. Shh, don't tell him. And then I just stuck an acrylic block inside. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pounce a bunch of darker gray ink onto that sock and use it essentially like a stamp to get the texture onto the cardstock. And I decided the more imperfect the better. So after I had stamped it one time, then I went ahead and inked it up and stamped it a few more times. And I moved the sock over just a little bit each time to kind of make sure the stripes didn't line up perfectly. I really did want it to be an all-over pattern and definitely very imperfect. So out of that textured gray, I'll do the detail layer and the tail detail from Jinks, and then from the red, I'm doing the 2 pieces from Props 2, and that's the little poof for the top of the hat and the little bow. Then I'm going to switch to a black cardstock and a cream. The cream has the double-sided adhesive on the back, the black does not. And I'll do shadow pieces out of the black, detail pieces out of the cream. Last bit of die cutting is from my leftover stamped gray piece. I just want to get a shadow layer. Basically, this is to make the hat. I really only need kind of the top of his head, so it doesn't really matter. As long as you get the top of his head in there, that's really all you need. So I'm going to keep the sock monkey solid, and I'm going to use the cream monkey for parts. And the first part I'm going to grab is just his hands and his legs, a little bit on the wrist and the ankles, peel up the liner and stick those to the gray one. So basically I'm trying to turn the ends of his legs cream colored, as you would see on a typical sock monkey. Now I'm using the Elizabeth Craft Designs detail tweezers to help me place this and the scissors to help me cut them. And those now come in pink. They are limited edition and they're just so cute. So definitely get yourself a set of pink ones if you are, like I am, a huge fan of these tools. Now here's the scissors in use. I'm basically just snipping out the bottom half of his face to turn it cream. So I snipped right along below the eyes, across the bridge of his nose kind of, and then along his chin line. And that will give me a piece that will perfectly fit on there to change the color of his kind of snout area to the cream color. Now I've got all the cream pieces in place. I can get out like any pieces that I don't need, like his mouth and his nostrils. And then I'm going to zoom in and show some of the cutting. Unfortunately, I zoomed in just a little too far and really did not realize how often my scissors are out of the shot here. So I'm just going to describe what I have done because most of it is out of the frame. I have done the scissors here to kind of basically cut off all his fingers. I'm sorry, Jinks, but a sock monkey doesn't have any fingers. And a sock monkey doesn't have toes either. So after I do the hands and round them off so that they're just kind of round nubs, then I'm going to go down and do the same on his feet. And then the last bit of alteration is I'll cut right across kind of the top of his smile. Basically, that's going to give him that big gaping mouth like you usually see on a sock monkey. Now, I would like him to have a big red mouth, so I'm going to need a little piece of red to go behind that mouth before I add it to my black shadow layer. Otherwise, I'll just have a black mouth. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trace it onto the back of the red cardstock. Then I'll just cut out with scissors that mouthpiece a little bit larger than the pencil lines and stick it into the exposed adhesive on the back of the monkey. And that will turn his mouth into a red color. From there, since this is self-adhesive, I can just peel up the liner and stick my finished altered sock monkey onto this shadow layer. And the way the detail layer works on the shadow layer is it does, as implied, leave a little shadow. Sometimes starting at an ear is a great spot. If you can just get that little black shadow all the way around, it's really actually quite easy. And then I'm noticing all these little threads from my die cutting. I'm going to get in there with my tweezers and get rid of those because they bug me. Okay, one last thing is, as you see, the shadow layer still has toes and fingers. So now I need to go in with my scissors and do the same thing on the shadow layer where I just kind of chop off all the toes and the fingers. And I can just trace kind of right around the things that I've already cut. It's actually pretty simple to do this because I can just follow along around the cream color just a little bit outside of that to complete the shadow. And then I'm just going to add a little ink around the whole piece using that dark gray ink and a blending tool. One thing about sock monkeys is they usually have solid ears. They don't have that little cutout. So I can go in, peel up the liner of those inner parts of the ear from the detail layer and just stick them right back in there again to make his ears solid. I'm going back to my detail layer for the tail. I'm going to put that on the shadow layer for the tail. Those come as separate dies so that you can always choose your own tail location when you're making monkeys. And then I also cut one out of the cream so that I could make the tip of his tail the cream color. Once again, just add a little bit of ink. That extra partial detail layer is where I can cut the hat. I just kind of chopped off the top of his head into a hat shape, and then I can use this leftover body piece that's out of the cream, and from there I'll be able to get a nice rounded hat band. Put those two together, maybe add a little bit of ink, and then I'll be able to add the little red poof that I cut from the Props 2 die set to complete the hat. Sock monkeys usually have button eyes, so I chose some small brown buttons, and I went ahead and sewed them on with some brown embroidery floss. You could easily do the same thing using a glue dot. I also used the Props 2 little red bow along his chin line, and for now I'm just going to tuck his hat behind his button eyes till I decide where he's going on the project, and then I can adjust that hat location to my liking. The first sock monkey is done, and for my second sock monkey I actually wanted to change his position. So what I did is I did everything the same except for I chopped his head away from his body on the detail layer and used two separate shadow layers for that. That way I could still keep most of his head shadow layer as a place to adhere the new head. I'm going to flip his body upside down so that he's hanging from his tail, and then I'm going to add his headpiece into the area below there and glue it in place. So completely easy way to change the positioning of the monkey, even if you're just doing it as a regular monkey and not as a sock monkey. In the end, I ended up using two of the upward monkeys and one of the downward. But let's talk about this oval landscape accordion that we're going to put these monkeys onto. So this is one of the brand new dies. It looks very similar in outer shape to the gift card accordion, which was a previous release. And as a matter of fact, they do share an outer frame, and you will be able to mix those and make some really fun mixed accordions if you own both dies. But what I need to do is cut 3 cardstock and 2 patterned paper pages of the oval landscape accordion. And what I'm doing with the pattern paper ones is I'm separating the ovals from the frame. So these ones are not going to be mechanical. They're just going to be used for decoration. I want to turn each of those 2 pages into just an oval and just a frame. And I do that by just snipping off all of the mechanism and the tabs so that I'm left with just an oval and just a frame. And then I'll just go ahead and repeat that on my second pattern paper page. Oval landscape accordion comes with decorator pieces like this stitched oval that I cut out of cream with double-sided adhesive. I cut 8 of the little corners, and then I'm using one of the other new dies, which is the trellis wavy frames, and I used the big frame for this, which will fit both the oval landscape and the gift card accordion. I'm also excited to introduce stencils. This one that I'm going to use today is S006, the Swirly Flourish stencil. And I'm just going to use a blending tool and some red ink to just pounce that ink through the stencil and all over that page. And then I can just lift it off and I've got that great pattern all over the page. My stencil will just clean up with a little bit of water. They're very durable and I think you're going to really like the quality of the stencils. Okay, adding the wavy frame is just a matter of either using fine glue or I could have die cut it with the double-sided adhesive on the back of the paper. I just didn't think of it until after I'd already die cut it, so I just used my fine glue to get that on the page. This page I'm working on is actually the center page of the album, and I'm going to assemble the album a little differently today. I'm going to do something different with the center page. I'm actually going to score it for folding up the middle of the whole page. Now it already pivots right in the center, and that will make it easy for me to put those little pivot points right in one of the grooves of my scoring board so that I can actually score it all the way across the page. And then I'm just going to carefully fold the whole page in half, and I'm doing color to color on my first fold, but actually it's just the oval that will remain that way. And on my outer frame, I'm going to back fold it so it goes the opposite way. So I flattened it here for assembly, but you can see that my outer frame is folded in the middle as a mountain fold, and the oval itself is folded in the middle as a valley fold. And now I'm going to start assembling my album in the usual manner. So I'm putting some strong adhesive. I'm just going to use my glue on the two outer tabs for page 1, getting those right behind page 2, making sure I can still bend between the pages, and just pinching that until it sets up. I'll repeat that process to connect page 2 to page 3. And sometimes it is easiest to fold those tabs first so that you can kind of get in there and make sure that it's still hinged as you attach them to their neighbor. So the glue goes on the tabs. They go up behind page 3. Once again, I'm just going to make sure I can still fold it and give it a good pinch. Now my 3 pages are together, and I can just quickly do some decorations here. I want my pattern paper ovals to be glued to page 1 and page 3 on the front of the album. And I'm also going to add all of those little corners. So I'm just going to add some fine glue and get those stuck in the corners for both of my cream colored pages. So all 8 of those will go on the front of the album. Where my big outer pattern paper frames are going to go is actually on the back of the album in the 2 outer pages. So I'll just glue those on. Last little step is just to cut off my tabs that are left out on the end of page 3. I don't need them because I don't have a page 4. Okay, continuing on with my decoration for the front of the album, I'm going to add those stitched ovals. So the one that's going to go on page 3, I'm just going to peel up the liner, stick it down. I can actually trim off the little tab on that oval because once again there is no page 4. Now on the page 1 oval, before I would glue it on, I actually want to stamp a greeting. And I'm going to use the new Cheeky Monkey clear stamps, and I'm going to use the We Should Hang Out stamp. And then I'll just peel up the liner and stick that on page 1. And notice the placement. I did stamp the greeting all the way to the right side of that oval, leaving me plenty of room for a sock monkey on the left. Now, normally I'm a fan of doing all my decorations in the flat position, but for this album, those monkeys are kind of going to be hanging off of edges, and I've got an extra fold, and so I think I'll just go ahead at this point and assemble my album so that I can add the decoration of the monkeys without having to worry about impeding any pivoting or folding. So this is how it's going to work. It's a little different than normal because what I've done is I've made a mountain out of the center page, and that actually allows me to have a very symmetrical look with a 3-page album because the outer 2 pages will both pivot the same way. They'll pivot outward, and then the middle one will have a fold in the middle. So all I'm basically doing is just connecting the ovals to each other. This is what you would normally do for an accordion. There's nothing different here. I'm pinching that until it sets up, and as soon as I can get it into the closed position, I just want to make sure those ovals are lined up so that it's straight. I can check everything. It looks great. Okay, now my other tab is going to connect the oval to the final page. And in the closed position, it'll lay down like this. The tab will come over the top, and it's going to connect right here to this oval. So I'm going to just complete the connection of those. I'll add my strong glue to the little tab, bring that oval up to it, pinch it until it sets up. So now you can see how symmetrical this album is. In the open position, it's almost like a W or an M. I guess it just depends on which way you're looking at it. And then your 3 ovals will just shoot right through the album. But they're all very viewable. The whole entire oval is viewable because we've kind of basically bent the frame to the back behind it. So now it's just a matter of adding monkeys. And the one that goes in the center, you just got to make sure that it stays to one side of the fold or the other. You can't really have it cross the fold or else you'll have to fold your monkey, which you don't want to do. And then I'm going to put my final monkey on the last page. Okay, one last little decoration, and I'm going to do it using monkey tails. I've cut the 2 shadow layers out of black, and then I've cut the pattern paper tails, but I did one from the top of the paper and one from the bottom of the paper. That way I get mirror image tails so that I can make this basically into a cute little heart. So I'm going to use my glue to add the patterned paper to the shadow layer. I didn't use adhesive all the way at the base of the tail, and that way I'll be able to lift up the layers and kind of tuck them in to complete the look of the heart at the bottom, and then I'll glue them down. So there, I've just made a simple little heart using monkey tails. How fun is that? And that can go right there in the center on the other side of the fold. So this little fold back technique in the center to make a symmetrical 3-page album, that's something you should definitely experiment with some of the other accordions and see how it works out. It should work with any of them, actually. It's almost Valentine's Day, so that definitely influenced my color choices, but really this is an all year round type of project. You could use this. We should hang out for anybody. Anybody who would appreciate a sock monkey will probably love this card. You can go to elizabethcraftdesigns.com to find out more information about Pop It Up's dies, or check the About box right below this YouTube video. You might have to click to YouTube to get there, and you will find direct links to all of the products that I used in this video. You can like me on Facebook. I have a Karen Burniston Designer Facebook page where I will treat you to daily inspiration from me and my Designer Challenge team, and you'll always find more ideas on my blog, karenburniston.com. Thanks for watching.